So, hello everyone. Our topic for today is about designing the curriculum, which is the chapter 2. Module 3, the teacher as a curriculum designer. So, let's go to the overview of our lesson. We have here the called curriculum. So, what is curriculum? So, curriculum is a planned sequence of a learning experiences. So, an example of this is the Matatag curriculum, the K-12 curriculum. So we also have here teacher as curricularies to provide necessary experience that will enable the learners what they intend to learn. So the teacher as curricularies, they are to provide necessary experiences that will enable the learner what they intended to learn from the lessons or the curriculum. So as a curricularist teacher, they must involve in designing the curriculum, and their role is to be part of the intellectual journey of the learners. So the teacher is always being or it they are always a part of the intellectual journey of the learners. Also, we have the curriculum designer. So the teacher designs a lesson or utilizes a curriculum that has been made and was previously written. So the curriculum designer, they're going to design a curriculum basis from the made curriculum. For example, the K-12 to Matatag curriculum. So being a curriculum designer is not an easy task. It is wherein the creativity and style of the teacher came in. So this is wherein the teachers will challenge in designing or in being a curriculum designers. So now let's proceed to the fundamentals of the curriculum design. So we have here the 10 axioms about curriculum presented by Gordon, Taylor, and Olivia. So the 10 axioms about curriculum that teachers need as reminders. So before we will go to the 10 axioms about curriculum, let's know first what do we mean by axioms. So when we say axioms, these are the principles that practitioners as curriculum designer can use as guidelines or a frame of reference. So this will help the teachers, or this will be their guides or a frame of reference. So the number one is the curriculum change is inevitable, necessary, and desirable. So when we say that curriculum change is inevitable, it is avoidable. So this means that we can stop or we can't avoid the changes of the curriculum as times goes by. Like for example, the K-12 and the Matatag curriculum. We can't stop the changes of the K-12 curriculum, as it was already implemented by the higher ups or the stakeholders of the Department of Education. So also we have curriculum change as necessary. So curriculum change is necessary because they won't change or implement new curriculum if it's not necessary to the needs and for the betterment or improvement of the learners, or to achieve the goals of the learners or the students. And also, curriculum change is desirable because this means that the curriculum had quantifiable objectives, or ito ay makakatulong sa mga estudyante na makamit ang mga dapat nilang malaman at matutunan. So, one of the characteristics of curriculum is being dynamic. So this means that the teachers must know or should know how to respond to the changes in the school and in other contexts. So societal development and knowledge revolution came so fast that the need to address the changing condition requires curriculum designs. That is why it says that curriculum change is inevitable, necessary, and desirable. Number 2, curriculum is a product of its time. So when we say curriculum is a product of its time, this means that a relevant curriculum should respond to the changes brought about by the current social, forums, philosophical positions, psychological principles, new knowledge, and educational reforms, or so-called timeliness, as stated from the book. So let's take from example the K-12 and the Matatag curriculum. To address the issues about the past curriculum, which is the K-12 curriculum, they design another curriculum, which is the Matatag, that emphasizes a strong foundation in core subjects, value, education, and the development of critical thinking skills that can be seen as a response to the current educational needs of our country. So the next one is curriculum changes made earlier can exist concurrently with newer curriculum changes. So in this phrase, this means or this refers that both previous and recent modifications to a curriculum can be implemented at the same time within an educational system. So meaning the older curricular frameworks or content can still be used alongside updated versions, allowing for a transitional period where both sets of changes are integrated. So let's take, for example, the K-12 and Matatag curriculum again. So as we are learning or discussing the Matatag, we saw some similarities because the K-12 has just been updated to a Matatag curriculum, so the K-12 curriculum is being implemented at the same time with the Matatag. The name of the curriculum was just being changed by Matatag curriculum, but they base it from the K-12 curriculum. So the number 4 is the curriculum changes depends on people who will implement the change. So this emphasizes the importance of involving teacher in the curriculum development process, because the teachers are the primary implementers of the curriculum, and their insights and experiences are crucial for creating effective educational programs. So let's take for example the Matatag curriculum. In Matatag curriculum today, if a new subject on digital literacy is introduced, the teachers will be teaching this subject should be part of the curriculum design team, so they can provide valuable feedback on what resources are needed or what challenges they might face and how best to engage students. So when teachers feel ownership over the curriculum, they are more likely to be committed to its successful implementation. So that's why it calls the curriculum changes depends on people who will implement the change. So the one who implement the change was the teachers, or they are the primary implementers of the curriculum. So the number 5 is curriculum development is a cooperative group activity. So this highlights the collaborative nature of curriculum development. So this suggests that input from various stakeholders, including teachers, administrators, parents, and even students, should be sought to foster a sense of ownership and ensure the curriculum meets diverse needs. So let's take for this example the changes of the K-12 to Matatag curriculum. The committee must include teachers from grade levels, parents, and students representatives to discuss proposed changes of the curriculum. So the number 6 is the curriculum development as a decision-making process. That made from the choices of the alternatives. So, in development of curriculum, it involves making informed decisions about what content to include, the educational philosophy to adopt, the methods of assessment to use, and this requires careful consideration of various alternatives. For example, the curriculum designers will develop a new curriculum under the Matatag curriculum. Let's say, for example, in a science subjects, the curriculum designer must decide whether to focus on inquiry-based learning or traditional lectures methods based from the decision of the others or the various alternatives. So let's go to number 7. Curriculum development is an ongoing process. So curriculum development is not a one-time event, but rather as a continuous cycle of evaluation and improvement. So as societal needs and technology advancements evolves, so as the curriculum also. So let's take for example the Matatag curriculum. The regular feedback sessions could be held at the end of each academic year to assess the effectiveness of the curriculum. They will do the feedback sessions or the going to assess the effectiveness of the curriculum if it is effective or not to implement. So, number 8, curriculum development is more effective if it is comprehensive rather than So, number 8, curriculum development is more effective if it is a comprehensive process rather than a piecemeal. So, the development of the curriculum is more effective if it is a comprehensive process because it allows for a holistic approach for education, so meaning all of the components of the curriculum such as objectives, content, teaching methods, and assessment are developed in an integrated manner. So it is not just a piecemeal or one-time piece at a time. So for example, let's take for example the example that I searched on the internet. When implementing the Matatag curriculum, a school district might create a detailed plan that outlines the learning objectives for each grade level, the resources such as books, textbooks, technology, and the professional development needed for the teachers to effectively deliver the curriculum. So this will help ensure that all components work together harmoniously to support students' learning. So number 9, curriculum development is more effective when it follows systematic process. So when we say systematic process, it is step-by-step procedure. So if in cooking we have the step-by-step procedure on how to cook a meal or other recipes, in curriculum we have also a step-by-step procedure to follow. So, by adhering to a systematic process, educators can ensure that the curriculum is aligned with educational standards, meets the needs of learners, and incorporates feedbacks to continuous improvements. So, the last one is curriculum development starts from where the curriculum is. So, in the process of creating or revising a curriculum, it should begin with an assessment of the existing curriculum. Let's take again, for example, the K-12 and Matatag. Without the K-12 curriculum that they use as the basis, they won't make or implement the Matatag curriculum, wherein that educators identify strengths and weaknesses, understand what is working well, and determine areas that require improvement or updating. With this, they can ensure that any new development are relevant practical and aligned with the actual needs of the learners rather than imposing changes that may not be applicable or beneficial. So, to develop a curriculum, it must be starts from the curriculum. So now that we finally know the 10 axioms about curriculum that teacher needs as reminders, let's move on to the elements or components of a curriculum designs. But before that, let's see first the question that answers the major components or elements of most curricula. Number 1 is, what learning outcomes to be achieved, or the intended learning outcomes. Number 2, what content should be included to achieve the learning outcomes, or it is the subject matter. Number 3, what learning experiences and resources should be employed. So this is the teaching learning methods. How will the achieved learning outcomes be measured? So, or the assessment of achieved learning outcomes. So these are the questions that answers the major components or elements of most curricula. So let's proceed to the elements or components of a curriculum design. So we can labels or names, or we have here the labels or names for curriculum design, which is syllabus or a lesson, syllabus, lesson plans, unit plan, or the course plan. So let's go to the elements or components. Number 1 is behavioral objectives or the intended learning outcomes. So it is the desired learning outcomes that is to be accomplished in a particular learning objectives. Find in the revised Bloom's taxonomy of objectives, which are the cognitive skills, affective skills, psychomotor, by Sampson. So it is sometimes referred to the anticipated results after completing the planned activity or a lesson. So let's take for example the lesson plan. So I have here the lesson plans. So the behavioral objectives or intended learning outcomes are the 3 objectives in the lesson plans, which is the cognitive domain, psychomotor domain, and affective domain. So before we're going to proceed doing our lessons, we need first to make a cognitive, psychomotor, and affective objectives, so that we know, or the student know, what to accomplish after the particular learning episode or the lesson. So the number 2 is the content or the subject matter. That is the topic or subject matter that will be covered in the lesson. So let's take for example again the lesson plan. This is the topic. We're going to put the topic in the lesson plan. But it must be relevant to the outcomes of the curriculum. So the learning objectives should be relevant to the topic also. So the topic must be relevant also to the learning objectives, appropriate to the level of the lesson or unit. So the objectives or the subject matter, they must be appropriate to the level of the lesson or unit. So if your student is grade 2, the topic must be for grade 2. And must be up to date, and if possible should reflect current knowledge and concepts. So it follows the principle of basic. So what do we mean by basic? It was the balanced, articulation, sequence, integration, and continuity. So the subject matter follows the principle of basic. So if we're going to get a topic or topic in our lesson plan or in our lesson, we should follow the principle of basic, which is the balance, articulation, the sequence, integration, and continuity. The third one is references. Tells where the content or subject matter has been taken. So the references, these are the link, the books, or other references that you use or we have used in getting our topics.
Okay, so now let's move to the teaching and the learning method. So the first one here is the cooperative learning. From the word itself, cooperative, it means that the learners work together. So ang isang example nito is yung mga group projects. And then next is yung independent learning. Pag sinabi nating independent learning, it allows student to work independently. So, ang isang halimbawa nito is yung mga quizzes, yung individual quizzes, yung ganun. And then, pag competitive activities naman, next is the competitive activities. So, when we say competitive activities, students test their competencies against each other in a healthy manner. So, they're going to compete but in a nice way. So, ang example din nito is yung sa mga spelling bee, yung mga ganun. Yung paunahan sila as a group sa pag-spell ng word. Ayun. And then next is the various delivery modes. Pag sinabi nating various, they use different methods to deliver instruction, such as online or blended. So, nauso itong blended, I think nung nagka-pandemic, dun ko na-encounter yung word na blended. Mixture siya ng yung traditional na classroom and pen and paper, yung ganun. And yung example is, a teacher creates online lessons that students can access at home. So, gaya ng pag may mga suspension, gagawa yung teacher, magbibigay siya ng activities through Google Classroom, yung mga ganun. So, ayun yung delivery modes. And then, next ay yung behaviorist teaching and learning method examples. So, ang una dito is yung direct instruction. This direct instruction is by Barak Rosenshine model in Ornstein and Hankins 2018. So the first one here is state learning objectives or outcomes. So example, pag sinabi nating learning objectives or outcomes, ito yung these are what the students should know after the lesson. Example nito is yun sa paggawa ng mga lesson plan. Yung nilalagay natin na by the end of this lesson or a 50-minute discussion, students will be able to identify yung mga ganun. And the next is yung review. Pag sinabi naman nating review, this is yung pag-recap ng mga previous learnings. Ayun. And then next is present new materials. Pag sinabi naman nating present new materials, i-introduce mo na yung mga information in small and manageable ways. So ito yung unti-unti mong pagpe-present ng topic mo. Ayun. And the next is yung explain. Pag sinabing explain, you're going to give clear and detailed explanation. So for example, yung topic mo is about sa human heart. Instead of saying na the heart is responsible for pumping blood, we will start by first defining what is heart and what are the four chambers or 4 parts of the heart. Yung ganun. So we can say na heart has four parts, 4 chambers, the right and left atrium. So in short, dito sa explain, magiging be specific sa pag-explain. And the next is yung practice. Pag sinabing practice, activities for all students. Yung example natin kanina is about sa human heart. So, you will give them activity and let them label the parts of it. Ayun. And then, pag sa guide naman, provide guidance in making the activity. So, pag magpapagawa ka na ng activity, you're going to guide your students. Pag may mga questions sila regarding dun sa instruction or dun sa activity, you're going to guide them. And then, pag sinabing check for understanding naman, next is yung check for understanding. This is assessing their comprehension. For example, pagkatapos mong sinabi yung 4 parts ng heart, you're going to ask them again kung ano yung what are the 4 parts of the heart, yung ganun. Parang isa-summarize mo siya bago ka mag-move dun sa next na concept or next na topic. Then next is number 8 is provide feedback. So you're going to give feedback about their works. So, sasabihin mo na example yung ginawa mo is nagpagawa ka ng nagpa-drawing ka, for example, nagpaguhit ka ng human heart and they're going to label the different parts of it, and then dito sa provide feedback you're going to say na they did a great job or good job in labeling the human heart, and remember that next time put an arrow to show the directions, yung ganun. So pag nagpo-provide ka kasi ng feedback, mas nai-encourage yung mga bata na mas pagbutihin pa yung kanilang mga ginagawa. Next is the assess performance. So in the assess performance, you're going to assess the understanding of the students by giving them activity. Next is review and test. So sa review and test, para siyang summarization of the topic, wherein it helps the students to retain information over time and develop a deep understanding of the subject. Ayun, parang isa-summarize mo yung topic. So next is the guided instruction by Madeline Hunter. So ang una naman dito is yung review. Gaya nga ng sinabi natin kanina, so review is the summarization of the main points from the previous topics. Next is the anticipatory set. So you're going to stimulate the students' interest on the new topic. So parang pag sila sumplan, ito yung sa motivation part. You're going to introduce your topic in a nice way or in a creative way. Upang sa ganon, makuha natin yung attention ng mga learners. And then the third one is objectives. This is what to be learned at the end of the discussion. Gaya nga ng sinabi din natin kanina sa ating previous na example, is ito yung dapat ma-attain or dapat ma-achieve ng mga students after the discussion. And next naman is input. Pag sinabing input, they're going to identify the needed knowledge and skills. So, present materials in sequence steps. Ito yung unti-unti nating pag-represent ng topic in a small chunks, yung unti-untihin yung pag-represent ng mga topics using the visual aids and real-life explanation para mas maunawaan ng mga learners. Next is modeling. So, ito na yung pag-provide ng example sa mga students using demonstrations. For example, yung sa human heart nga example natin kanina is pwedeng mag-show or pwedeng magpakita ng mga video na kung saan dinidiscuss yung function or parts ng mga heart ng upang sa ganun mas madaling maunawaan ng mga bata pag gagamit tayo ng mga creative na presentation gaya ng video presentation or yung mga human heart model. Yung ganun. So, next is check for understanding. Dito naman sa check for understanding, i-monitor yung students' understanding throughout the lesson. So, for example is, pagkatapos mag-explain yung about sa human heart, ask them again if what is the function of the human heart and its part. Upang ma-identify din kung nauunawaan ba talaga nila yung topic and para mas matulungan din yung teacher na mag-adjust sa kanilang teaching techniques. So, ayun. Next is yung guided practice. Pag sinabi naman natin guided practice, imo-monitor yung students' understanding by guiding them in doing the activities na kung saan sila nahihirapan. So, imo-monitor natin yung paggawa ng mga students dun sa mga activity and i-guide sila kapag may hindi sila naunawaan. And then, next is yung independent practice. So, pag sinabi naman nating independent practice, give them activities where they can work independently. So, bibigyan mo sila ng activity na kung saan sila mismo yung gagawa ng activity na yun in order for them to apply their knowledge. So, next is, i-differentiate natin kung ano ba yung pagkakaiba ng check for understanding, guided practice, and independent practice. So, for example, ito yung mas practical na example. Yung topic mo is, or you're teaching your students how to properly ride a bike, yung mga steps or process ng pag-ride ng bike para sa mga beginner o sa hindi pa alam kung paano mag-ride ng bike. So, i-explain mo yung process step by step and then you're going to check further understanding wherein you recall the step-by-step procedure on how to ride a bike by asking them. So, pagkatapos mong i-present yung step-by-steps na yun, ay tatanungin mo ulit sila kung ano ulit yung mga steps ng dun sa pag-ride ng bike. And then dito naman sa guided practice, you will let them ride a bike. Tapos, i-guide nyo sila by holding the bike. And then, sila na mismo yung magpe-pedal hanggang sa unti-unti nilang ma-practice. So, you're going to hold the bike, sasakay sila, and then i-guide mo. And then, sila yung magpe-pedal hanggang sa unti-unti nilang matutunan or unti-unti nilang matutunan yung pag-ride ng bike. And then, dito naman sa independent practice, sila na mismo yung sasakay sa bike nang hindi mo sila ginaguide. So, they're going to ride the bike on their own. Ayun, so ayun yung difference ng check for understanding, guided practice, and independent practice. So, moving on to letter C is The Mastery Learning by J.H. Black and Lauren Anderson. So, ang una naman dito is yung clarify. So, you're going to explain this to students what they are expected to learn. Para din siya yung sa learning objectives. State mo kung ano yung i-explain mo sa kanila kung ano yung mga dapat nilang, yung goal mo na dapat ma-achieve nila after ng discussion. Ayun. Next is inform. So, this step ensures that students understand the concept being taught. Use diagram or model of a human heart. Ayun nga, yung example din natin kanina na dapat in the discussion part, sinisigurado na nag-grasp or nauunawaan ng mga bata yung mga concept about dun sa human heart. So, dito gagamit ng mga creative na PowerPoint presentation, yung instructional materials, yung ganun, and yung mga pwedeng human heart model. Ayun. And then, next is yung pretest. This is a formative quiz. This is to assess the prior knowledge of the students. So, before discussing the parts of the human heart or before discussing the human heart, ay magbibigay muna ng mga questions or pre-test na kung saan mai-assess yung prior knowledge ng mga students tungkol sa human heart. And then, makakatulong din ito sa mga teacher upang ma-identify nila to identify any gap in the students' understanding. Next is yung group. So, divide the class based on their performance on the pretest, allowing for differentiated instruction. Ayun, so based from dun sa result ng pretest na binigay, ay igugrupo ng teacher yung mga students base dun sa mga marka na nakuha nila dun sa pretest. And then, sunod is yung enrich and correct. Dito, it involves providing additional support and challenges to students based on their group. Ito yung they are given enough support based on their level of understanding. So, pag sa yung sa mastery group, their activity would be enrichment activity para mas to deepen their understanding doon sa human heart. Pag naman dun sa mga non-mastery group ay mga activities to address specific areas of difficulty. Ayun yung ibibigay niyong activities. And then, sunod is yung sa monitor. So, from the result of the pretest and dun sa group, dito ay imo-monitor yung progress ng students para malaman o ma-provide yung level ng support and challenge to help them achieve mastery. Dito. And next is a post-test. This post-test naman is para siyang summative test or a summary test for a non-mastery group. So, dito ay ma-measure na kung ano yung naunawaan or natutunan ng mga students after ng discussion. So, pag pre-test, before the discussion ay magbibigay muna ng activity to test their prior knowledge. And then sa post-test naman is after na ng activity, after ng discussion ay doon na ibibigay yung activity para matest din kung naunawaan nila yung topic. Ayun. Next is assess performance. So, at least 75% of the students should achieve mastery through the summative test. Ayun, so base dun sa result ng post-test ay i-assess ng guro kung na-meet ba yung learning objectives. And pag hindi na-meet, kung na-meet ba yung objectives and they have a solid understanding of the topic. Ayun, i-assess ng teacher kung naunawaan ba ng mga bata yung sa topic. And then, pag hindi naman, ay next na itong reteach. So, dito sa reteach, kung hindi na-meet ang objectives or very low yung mga scores or result, is uulitin yung buong proseso para dun sa mga very low ang scores and dun sa very low ang performance upang sa ganun ay mas matulungan pa na mas maunawaan yung topic. Next, let's move to the systematic instruction by Thomas Good and Jer Brophy. So, yung first dito is review again, gaya nga ng sa previous lessons and previous discussion. This is the revisiting of the previous topic. Next naman is development. It promotes students' understanding or ito yung pinaka-core ng lesson wherein new information is introduced and students actively engage. Ito yung parang sa presentation or discussion na to. And then, next ay yung assess comprehension. So, it involves evaluating the students' understanding to identify areas where they need support. Also, to know if they are comprehending and if they can follow the lesson. Ito na, you're going to assess their comprehension. Parang mag-a-ask ka rin ng question para i-assess or para tignan kung sila nga ay nagka-comprehend dun sa mga topic na sinasabi mo, kung nauunawaan ba nila yung mga discussion. Next is the seat work. So, ito yung independent practice during the lesson. They can work on worksheet regarding the human heart or create their own diagram. So, seat work, ito yung mga individual na activities na ipinapagawa just after the discussion. So, for example, yung topic din natin, yung halimbawa natin kanina is about the human heart. Pag yun yung topic is, bibigyan nyo sila ng individual na activity wherein sasagutan nila regarding dun sa topic na human heart. Next is accountability. Check the student's work. So, yung accountability is yung pagmamonitor ng students' progress to ensure that they are on track and to address any difficulties. So, parang paulit-ulit lang pero different terms nga lang yung ginagamit. Imo-monitor din dito sa accountability, imo-monitor din ng mga guro yung progress ng students para masigurado kung nakakasabay ba sila sa discussion, at pag hindi naman ay para ma-address yung mga to address any difficulties. And next is yung homework. So in short, homework is the assignment. This is learning outside the classroom. Teachers are encouraged to assign homework regularly para mas ma-practice or magkaroon ang estudyante ng mas malalim na pag-unawa tungkol sa kanilang lesson. So the next one here is the special reviews. So this is the weekly reviews. Are like checking on your progress while learning something new. Ayun, so parang from week to week you're going to review yung mga previous topics while learning new topics, yung ganun. Now let's move to the Teaching and Learning Environment by Brian Castaldi, 1987. So, ang una dito is yung adequacy. So, this refers to the learning space or classroom or yung simply yung sa environment kung saan nagaganap yung teaching and learning process. Dapat i-consider yung sa environment, and then the utilization of the technology for the teaching and learning. Next is yung suitability. Aligning learning activities with stages of learners. So, dapat i-align din natin yung i-consider din natin kung suitable ba yung topics or yung mga binibigay nating example dun sa level ng mga bata. And then, dapat din i-consider natin yung socio-cultural, economic, and religious backgrounds ng mga learners. Dapat dapat maging culture sensitive tayo dun sa pagbibigay ng mga examples, yung ganun. Next is efficiency. It is the effectiveness of the learning environment. So, such as the strategies and resources in achieving its objectives. So, sufficient ba effective ba yung ginagamit nating technique, yung ganun. And then next is yung economy. Of course, we also need to consider the cost effectiveness. Does the resources use wisely and efficiently? Nagamit ba ng tama yung mga resources? Yung ganun. And pwede pa bang magamit sa iba pang mga lessons? Yung ganun, para hindi masayang yung gastos. And next is assessment or the evaluation. So, learning occurs most effectively when students receive feedback. So, mas natututo yung mga bata pag nagpo-provide yung mga teachers ng feedback. Kasi dun sa feedback, nai-encourage yung mga bata na mas pagbutihin pa yung kanilang mga ginagawa, and dun sa feedback din, malalaman ng mga students kung tama ba or mataas ba or mababa yung kanilang nakuha dun sa pagsusulit regarding sa topic na yun. So, meron ditong mga types ng assessment. Ang una is yung self-assessment. Dito, students learn to monitor and evaluate their own understanding. So, sila mismo yung mag-a-assess sa kanilang sarili. Next is yung peer assessment. So, natakal din ito sa mga previous lessons or sa ibang subject, yung about dito sa mga assessment na ito. So, yung peer assessment naman is yung students provide feedback on each other's learning. So, dun sa kapwa nila learning sila magpapa-assess. Next is the teacher assessment. So, in here, teachers will prepare and administer the test. So, after that, they will give the feedback to the students' performance. So, based dun sa test, dun sa result ng test, ay i-assess nila dun sa performance ng mga students. So, now let's move to the application of the fundamental components to other curriculum designs. So, similar components will also be used in making a syllabus for teaching higher education courses or other curricular projects. And now, let's move to the major components of a course design or syllabus. So, ang una dito is yung intended outcomes or yung sinasabing objectives. Of course, dapat kasali yun. Ito yung mga ina-expect mo na matututunan ng mga bata after the subject. And next is the content or the subject matter. So, when we say content or the subject matter, ito yung sa topic na i-discuss na dapat with references. And the third one is the method or the strategies or yung techniques mo with the needed resources. Dapat may PowerPoint presentation or yung mga creative instructional materials. Next is the evaluation. So, yung evaluation is yung mga activities na mag-a-assess or mag-evaluate dun sa mga students kung talaga bang naunawaan nila yung sa topic. Ayun. So, that is ayun lamang po yung aking report tungkol sa teaching and learning methods.